What does it really mean to be African? I was born on the continent and have lived in it for most of my life. The word Africa means everything to me. It's home. Then I left the shores of the motherland, and for the first time, I asked myself what that name truly means to me. When I was born, my parents gave me a name with a meaning, a history, and in most cases, a name to shape my destiny. It was chosen for me by my own people, and having borne that name, I can say it represents me. By my name, you can tell my tribe, my history. It's a name that gives me an identity and a sense of belonging. So, the name Africa, is it ours? What did we as inhabitants of the land call ourselves? If it wasn't our name, who gave it to us? Does it truly represent the incredible diversity and history of our people? These questions led me to explore the origins of the name Africa, look at an ancient alternative for it, and ask the most important question: where do we go from here? While doing my research, it quickly became clear that the dominant academic consensus is this: the name Africa didn't come from the people who lived on the continent, and it has sparked a lot of debate with a lot of theories put forward as to its origin. The most commonly accepted one is that the Romans named the region around Carthage, modern-day Tunisia, after a local Berber tribe, possibly the Auriga. The Romans referred to them as Afri, and then the suffix Ika was then used to denote a landmass. So Africa would mean the land of the Afri. Alternate theories exist, some associating its origin with the Greeks with the word Afrike, which means the land free from cold and horror. Others point to the Phoenicians with words like Farika, meaning corn or fruit, implying land of corn, or the word Afar, meaning dust. These theories showed that the Phoenician cities along the coast traded and interacted with North Africa from very early on. Another Roman origin suggested the Latin word aprica, meaning sunny, referencing the continent's climate. There are also theories that it was named after historical figures. 1st century historian Flavius Josephus suggested it was named after Afer, a grandson of Abraham. Another theory is that a Yemenite chieftain named Africus invaded North Africa around the 2nd millennium and named his settlement Africa. On the flip side, Ivan van Septima suggested the name Africa actually comes from an ancient Egyptian phrase, Afru Ika, which means birthplace or motherland. His idea goes against the common view that the name is foreign, and it has been viewed as an attempt to push back against the historical narratives imposed by colonizers and to find a more empowering and authentic way for Africans to identify themselves. What is clear from all this is that Africa was a name given to a particular region and not the whole continent. So, what did we call ourselves? Before Africa became a singular continental name, the diverse landmass was not conceptualized as a single entity by its inhabitants. Instead, people identified with their local kingdoms, empires, ethnic groups, and various regions had their own names. There was Kemet, ancient Egypt, one of the earliest documented civilizations. Written history dates it back to the 4th millennium BC. Kemet, meaning black land, referred to the fertile Nile plains. South of that was the kingdom of Kush. Ancient Egyptian texts also referred to a place called Punt, a region believed to be in the Horn of Africa, possibly parts of modern-day Somalia, Djibouti, Eritrea, and Ethiopia. There was the kingdom of Monomotapa in modern-day Zimbabwe and Mozambique, the Nguni peoples in what is now South Africa, Songhai in Mali, and the Benin Kingdom in Nigeria. The continent was a mosaic of distinct polities including Aksum, Ife, Oyo, Great Zimbabwe, and many others across its vast expanse. Rather than possessing a single continental name, The diverse populations of Africa maintained distinct regional identities and naming systems that reflected local cultures, languages, and political structure. This journey also took me to the name Alkebulan, a widely circulated claim, particularly online and in some Afrocentric writings, suggests Alkebulan was the original indigenous name for Africa, often translated as Mother of Mankind or Garden of Eden. Proponents like Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop assert Alkebulan was indeed the oldest and only word of indigenous origin for the continent, claiming its use by various ancient groups, including Moors, Nubians, Carthaginians, and Ethiopians. However, further investigation reveals that the earliest documented mentions of Alkebulan are found in European sources from the 16th and 17th centuries. For instance, Moreri's Le Grand Dictionnaire Historique of 1681 notes it as a name Arabs used for Africa, and Lacroix's Les Rations Universelles de l'Afrique of 1688 attributes it to the Moors. Despite these European references, modern scholars and linguists are largely skeptical of Alkebulan being Africa's original indigenous name. The term is absent from ancient African texts and oral tradition predating European contact. Furthermore, linguist Matt Rixby points out that Alkebulan doesn't appear to be a recognized Arabic word. Also, the proposed meanings of Mother of Mankind or Garden of Eden also lack linguistic support. Essentially, the term's documented origins trace back to European accounts, not indigenous African ones. While Alkebulan may have been used historically by some groups to refer to parts of Africa, the evidence does not support the claim that it was the original indigenous name for the entire continent. The question, what was Africa called before it was called Africa, reveals that there was no single indigenous name. The name Africa, first applied by the Romans after the Punic Wars to a small northern region, was only gradually extended as a continental term through European exploration and colonization. So the question remains, where do we go from here? We are faced with three choices, each with its own compelling arguments. One part is to stay with Africa and reclaim it. Proponents of this view argue that despite its Roman origins, the name has been profoundly redefined through the continent's struggle for independence, the Pan-African movement, and vibrant modern cultural expressions from all over the continent. The formation of the African Union and the rise of continental cultural movements are often cited as evidence of this successful reclamation. Another option is to go back to Alkebulan and revert to it. This perspective highlights the symbolic importance of shedding colonial names as a vital step in decolonizing the mind. Reverting to Alkebulan would be an act of honoring ancestors and choosing a name that reflects an indigenous narrative rather than a historical accident of Roman conquest, much like Rhodesia became Zimbabwe and the Gold Coast became Ghana. Finally, a more radical idea suggests we could forge a new path and remake it. This proposes that neither Africa nor Alkebulan might be the perfect fit for the continent's future. Given the colonial baggage of Africa and the historical uncertainties surrounding Alkebulan, a brand new name could be collectively chosen by the continent's people today. This new name would reflect shared aspirations and a forward-looking identity. This conversation about names and identity is not unique to us. From the indigenous people of the Americas to the First Nations of Australia, many cultures have grappled with the names given to them by outsiders. At the end of the day, the debate over the name Africa or Alkebulan is a vital conversation we need to have. It's about identity, history, and power. But whether you stand on the side of reclaiming the name Africa or reverting to Alkebulan, the discussion itself is less important than the work that follows. The real challenge isn't what we call the continent, but what we make of it. The paramount importance lies in moving the continent forward and in building the future our ancestors dreamed of. And that's what I'm trying to do in my own small way by bringing our incredible histories, our vibrant cultures, and our profound traditions to the forefront. Because by knowing and defining ourselves, we build a foundation so strong that it doesn't matter what name is on the label, the content will speak for itself. This is a conversation I wanted to start. What does the name Africa mean to you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if this journey resonated with you, please consider subscribing for more stories about our shared history.